Welcome to Marking the End Times. I'm Mark Hitchcock, and as always, thank you so much for joining us for this week's program. Our topic this week is Israel on high alert. This week, we reached the grim milestone of the 6-month point in the Israel-Gaza war. And I believe that Israel is at its most dangerous position since the founding of the modern state of Israel in 1948. Now, that's quite a statement, because Israel has obviously been in a lot of very precarious positions since that point of time. But the world is turning against Israel more and more, demanding an immediate ceasefire. The world is turning more and more in its support for Hamas and against Israel. The peace talks are ongoing. It seems like everybody in the world wants a ceasefire except Israel and Hamas. Israel doesn't really want a ceasefire. I mean, they want their hostages back. They don't really want a ceasefire because they want to finish the job and destroy Hamas. Hamas wants to keep the hostages for leverage, and they want to allow the situation to continue to degenerate there even further to gain more global sympathy and to provide an issue for other Islamic nations to use against Israel. And while all that's happening, the northern threat against Israel from Hezbollah is reaching a breaking point. There's an article this week in a major publication, a headline, Hezbollah commando leader assassinated in Israeli airstrike in southern Lebanon. So Israel just killed a high-ranking Hezbollah official. The Times of Israel has an article this week. In a first, the IDF says a ship-mounted Iron Dome downs hostile drone over Eilat. Eilat is Israel's only city down there on the Red Sea, the far southern tip of Israel. A drone came over Eilat, and there's an Iron Dome system in Israel now that's mounted on ships that downed this drone. But on every front, Israel is facing dire dangers and threats. But the greatest threat by far, and really the one who's behind all of this, is Iran. And right now, Israel is on high alert. They're bracing for an imminent strike from Iran at any moment in retaliation for Israel's strike against the Iranian Consulate in Syria. But before we get into any deeper into today's topic, I want to just mention that we'll go to the subscriber-only section here in a few minutes. I want to answer some questions that have been submitted by our subscribers. There's one question about the N1 brain implant that Neuralink is working on. Could that be the mark of the beast? Will the Antichrist use this kind of technology as part of the mark of the beast? And there's another question about the assurance of salvation. How can we know that we're really saved? And how does God view it when we have doubts and lack of assurance? Another question about when the tribulation period's over and believers come back with Jesus to the earth for the 1,000-year reign, will technology be the same as it is now? Will we have to rebuild the world after the tribulation? Another great question, I'm sure many of you wondered about this, has the Garden of Eden ever been located? And if so, where is it? And one final question, is World War III the same as the Ezekiel 38 war, that Gog-Magog war in Ezekiel 38 and 39? Could that be World War III? So we'll answer those questions here in just a few moments. But on April 1st, Israel destroyed the Iranian Consulate in Syria. They killed 7 officials of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, including 2 high-ranking Quds Force generals. And of course, Iran immediately condemned the attack, and they promised a speedy and severe revenge against Israel. Iran also issued a warning and a threat to the United States. Now, the U.S. has roughly 900 troops in Syria and about 2,500 troops in Iraq and other support outposts in Jordan, which one of those support outposts of the United States in Jordan was hit by one of these militia groups supported by Iran not long ago and killed some American troops there. But CBS News says Iranian presidential advisor Mohammad Yamshidi posted on X that Iran's message to American leaders was not to get dragged into Netanyahu's trap for the U.S. Stay away so you won't get hurt. Now, obviously, any Iranian strike against U.S. assets would greatly escalate the already explosive situation there. Now, The Spectator has an interesting article this week that says Iran has basically 4 broad options in their retaliation against Israel. We all know it's coming. But what are these options? They say it could hit an Israeli or Jewish facility overseas using either Iranian state forces, option 1, or Iranian proxies. That would be option 2. Then there's a third option. Iran could also direct its proxies to strike Israel directly. And then there's a fourth option. Israel could strike Israeli soil directly, and that is its most risky option. So they could have, there are some of their proxies, Hezbollah, of course, Hamas is pretty much neutralized now, but the Houthis down in Yemen, they could have them strike Israel on their behalf, which kind of insulates Iran from this a bit, where Iran could strike Israeli soil directly. Now, that would be the most serious. That's the most risky option, but also it's the boldest option. I think it would send the strongest message to Israel, they believe. And that, this article says in The Spectator, would likely precipitate open war between the Iranian regime and Israel. So Israel's weighing out these various options. Now, CBS News this week has a fascinating article that said Israel and U.S. believe Iran is about to retaliate for Israeli bombing of the Syria consulate. Here's what the article says. The U.S. has picked up intelligence that Iran is planning a retaliatory attack that would include a swarm of Shahed loitering drones and cruise missiles. So this is a new strategy that's being employed by Iran and its proxies, and that's what's called a drone swarm, where they send in a whole bunch of drones at one time, and maybe only a couple of them are armed. But this swarm of drones comes in, and it's difficult for radar and for all the other things you have to pick up. And so it's hard to shoot all of them down at one time. And so many believe that's what Iran will do. They'll send in kind of this swarm of drones. But also it mentions here possibly cruise missiles, which have devastating power. Officials say the timing and target are unknown, but a proportional response to the Damascus attack, again, that attack of Israel where they killed those high-ranking Iranian officials, would be to hit an Israeli diplomatic facility. So some believe that's what they'll do. Another important unknown is where the drones and missiles would be launched. Would they be launched from Iraq or Syria? Obviously, they could be launched directly from Iran, but that's a very long distance. So they'd probably be launched from Iraq or Syria, which the article says, which could prompt a thin claim of deniability by Tehran, or they could be from Iranian territory. But if they launch them from Iraq or Syria, obviously Iran can say, well, we had nothing to do with that. If it comes from Iran directly, obviously they won't be able to deny their involvement in that. But, in any event, everyone's going to know who was behind it. But think about this for a moment. Any kind of disproportionate response from Iran will trigger a counter response from Israel. So if the response is not in proportion to what Israel did, Israel's going to feel a need to have a counter response. And then so on and so on. And so this could quickly spiral out of control, and it could even force the U.S.'s hand to get involved in the fray. Now, another related development to all of this is on April the 7th, exactly 6 months into the war with Hamas that started on October 7th when Hamas went in and slaughtered and massacred these Israeli civilians. 6 months from that date, Israel has withdrawn an entire division of its troops from Gaza, from down in southern Gaza. Now, this came as a surprise to many. A division in my understanding is a division in the Israeli army is made up of 3 brigades. And each brigade has a few thousand soldiers. So we're talking about thousands of soldiers being withdrawn from southern Gaza. And so, people down in Gaza, these Palestinians are going back to that area now where these troops have withdrawn from. But the reason for this withdrawal is unclear. Some believe that Israel might be withdrawing these troops to pave the way for peace talks. Now, again, it's not that Israel really wants peace. They want to go in and wipe out Hamas and finish the job. But they do want their hostages released. And they may believe that this is an opportune time to get these hostages released because Egypt is hosting a new round of peace talks. So through this withdrawal, that could be kind of seen as an overture that maybe they could have some kind of agreement to get these hostages released, because that's very high on their list of the things that they're desiring. The kind of the official word from Israel is that they pulled out this division of troops to give rest and rehab for this division in preparation for the coming all-out offensive against Rafah, which is that final stronghold of Hamas right down on the border of Egypt in the far southern part of Gaza, where about 1.2 million people are concentrated now. So Israel's saying, we're pulling these troops out to give them rest and rehab, to get ready for this kind of final all-out assault to go and eliminate Hamas. But many people believe that this sudden withdrawal of this entire division of troops by Israel out of Gaza could be in Israel's anticipation of Iran's coming strike of revenge against Israel. In other words, Iran's going to retaliate, and Israel doesn't want to have all of its troops down there, concentrated down in the area of Gaza. So they're moving out these thousands of troops, expecting some fierce response from Iran, possibly from the north with Hezbollah. And so Israel is strengthening right now its northern command, expecting a possible move by Hezbollah. But this moving of these troops, I think, is very significant. Israel is expecting something very, very big in the coming days. They're on high alert. Now, there's no doubt Iran will respond to what Israel did. They've said they're going to, and obviously they're going to have to follow through on that threat. Iran is bent on revenge. They're bent on payback. And so the fuse has been lit. But the questions now are, when will this attack come from Iran? Where will it come, and how will it come? Iran has said, though, that they're going to wait until the month-long Islamic holiday of Ramadan is over to initiate the attack. Well, Ramadan officially ended yesterday on April the 10th. So that time limit that they've placed on this now is over. So the clock is ticking. And we had this solar eclipse this week. And as I thought about this topic here, and, like a lot of you, put on the glasses and looked up at that eclipse, and then I came in and began to study and think about what I'm talking about with you here today. I thought, that's exactly what Iran wants to do to Israel. Iran wants to blot Israel out. They want to put Israel into total eclipse, into utter darkness, to blot them out. And so the foreshadow of Ezekiel 38 has never been larger than it is today. The pieces are moving into place, and I believe the events in the next few weeks will be very pivotal and decisive in the future of the Middle East. Things there have really reached, I think, a critical mass and a boiling point. So we need to keep praying for Israel. We need to keep praying for the Jewish people. They're on high alert. Some attack, some retaliation and revenge is coming. We need to be praying about this entire situation. And obviously, in light of the Lord's coming, we need to be looking and living, in light of the rapture. It may be very soon. Well, we're going to go now to the subscriber-only section, answer these questions that I've mentioned earlier. And if you're not a subscriber to endtimes.com, we'd love to have you as part of the endtimes.com subscriber family. And so you can go to endtimes.com and sign up there for really the small price of just $7 a month. And you'll have access to all kinds of great information. So we'll go now into that subscriber-only section. I'll answer these great questions that you've sent in.